Hello, hello. Welcome to the Five Talents Podcast. I'm your host, Abel Pacheco. I interview the top commercial real estate investors and industry experts so you can learn from their experiences. So if you're an investor, a high W-2 earner, or real estate or tech sales professional that wants to invest in real estate without having to manage properties or leave your day job, then this podcast is for you. Or if you're already investing in real estate, but you're doing it part-time and you want to become a full-time multifamily or full-time commercial real estate investor, this podcast is for you too. You're going to learn a ton. You will learn from real-life multifamily investors and other professionals in the industry. They're going to share their blueprints for success, and I'm super excited that you're here. So I hope you enjoy the show. Hello, hello. My name is Abel Pacheco. I'm your host for the Five Talents Podcast, where we dig into multifamily investing, paths to financial freedom, and various other topics around mindset and, all positive goodness, trying to figure out how to have a more successful life in whatever we do. And I am super excited about our next guest. So I was able to bring on and secure one of the highest sought after talents on LinkedIn and social media. You probably know him. You've seen some of his posts and content, which is you do a really good job at it. It's Mr. Ellis Hammond. Ellis, thanks for joining, man.
Hey, well, what's up, man? That's funny to hear, dude. I'm really glad to be here. You know, man, whatever you ask me to do, I'm gonna say yes for. So can't turn you down. It's been really fun getting to know you these last several months, being in the mastermind together. So anyways, man, I'm pumped that you're starting the show. I know you're going to bring a ton of great guests on, and happy to be here in the early stages.
Yeah, brother. I sincerely appreciate it. And for the listeners and viewers, Ellis and I have had a relationship this past year, and I found him through his Kingdom Capitalist Mastermind. So he founded this really great, I would say that probably the number one. I don't know if it's the only, but
I think it's number one because it's the only one, right? So like, which one do you want to say?
Yeah, I love it. It's a Christian mastermind, focus on, entrepreneurship. And also a lot of us are in multifamily, so it kind of goes hand in hand. But so you live in San Diego now. Yeah. You had a pretty, I guess, a different start than a lot of people that I've talked to in general to the multifamily investing world. So you went from nonprofit, you were a pastor, you kind of served the church and church community for a lot of years and transitioned. And now you're an owner or co-GP, sponsor, whatever you want to call it. You own a piece of a 144 unit apartment complex in Memphis. Is that all that correct?
Yeah, man. Yeah. So started out, did 6 years as a college pastor and missionary. And so before that, we bought a duplex here in San Diego, California, which was kind of our starting point about 4 or 5 years into our ministry. And then we did all of that, man. We bought all $10 million worth of real estate while we were still pastoring.
$10 million
and just realized, hey, man, we can't do both of these things. At least we didn't want to do both that. So now we're focused full time on the multifamily side of the business as well as the mastermind, as you know. So it's been great, man. It has been an incredible journey. I mean, to think about where I was 12 months ago, starting the fall semester for our ministry to now, just, man, the way the guy's showing up, the things that we've had to overcome and just learn so much, dude. So yeah, it's been fun, man. So here we are.
Yeah. You started a podcast, you founded the mastermind. In like under a year, you went from 2 doors to 144.
Yeah.
But what I love about your story is that, yes, you were quote unquote pulled away from the church. In fact, I have a feeling that you probably have even greater exposure today for the Lord, which is really awesome. So, I'm excited to hear more, man. I'm excited to hear about the journey. So why don't we just begin there with a little bit of your background. I've heard you share it multiple times on different podcasts, and but for our network, for my group of people, they would love to hear your background. So before we get really into it.
Yeah, so like I already said, I pastored for 6 years out here in San Diego, California. Our ministry was to build communities of faith on college campuses across the city of San Diego, and just loved it, man. Loved helping people, young people especially, really build a foundation of faith for the rest of their lives. I mean, I was tremendously impacted in college by ministry that I think has kind of laid the foundation for me today. And honestly, I never thought I would do anything different. Like, I really didn't. I love what we did. I thought I'd be in vocational ministry for forever. And something happened, man. I remember about 4 years into our ministry, a young man came to me. He was working for our organization. A young guy had decided to join our ministry as a staff, and we raised all the money that we needed to support our organization. So we did that on an individual basis. And he came to me one day and said, Ellis, I don't have enough money this month to buy groceries. And dude, that just hit me, man, like a freaking ton of bricks. And hit me for a lot of reasons, because one, I just felt responsible. The guy, trusted us, and there wasn't a whole lot I could do. Second, I didn't have the resources to help him, which also really felt just really crappy. And then 3, I realized, like, I have a wrong view of money, because up to that point, man, I really didn't want to do anything with money. And a lot of that is just my story, my family, the tension that it caused, the division that it caused, seeing how disappointed people got to with money. And so I just went away from it. And in that moment, man, I realized, wow, I think I've thought wrong about money my entire life, and just kind of working through that. And I called a transformation, man. Realizing, like, no, I need to figure out how do we build and create wealth, because I don't want to just be a good steward of my time. I want to be a good steward of my money. I don't want to just have influence over my time. I want to have influence over my money as well. And so that was a turning point for me, man. And that was, I share that story because without the mindset and those new beliefs, none of this other stuff, buying the duplex, 144 units, starting this mastermind, none of that would have happened without that transformation of realizing money is not evil. Money is a vehicle, and it's a tool that we can use to have a tremendous impact in the world. And if we learn how to really master money, we can do great things with it.
Yeah, man. And it's coming from somebody that has a seated background in service at church and that community. Normally, you don't really talk about those two things other than tithe in the church. You don't really talk about like wealth creation, how to create profit, and how to drive that forward. But you came from that mindset and now kind of switched over. So man, let's start there. You've raised millions of dollars for an acquisition and a deal. Sounds like you raised some money back then, even to make sure the church is going. So, help us with this mindset of, paradigm shift for money, like, new, either passive investors coming on, trying to understand more about, investing in the syndication world, or maybe I'm a new general partner and I have to be a good steward of people's money, good financial, kind of have that accountability. And then you're going to make a lot of money doing it in the process yourself. So how do we stay rooted? How do you stay seated in the right vein?
Well, here's the thing, man. Like, people ask me, how much money should I make? And what I've realized is that money flows to value. So the better question to ask is, how much value do you want to create in the world? Like, and as a Christian or any person of faith, like, the answer, I guess anybody, and faith doesn't, but I think our faith roots us in this, is that the answer is infinite. Like, why would you place a limit on value? And then look at the guys who have created tremendous value in our world. Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, the guys who are ultra billionaires, is because they've created something that people are willing to pay for that's changed our economy. And so when I realized that money flows to value, and it became more about a value proposition than a money thing, that was huge for me, man. So now there is an idea of stewardship here, and then how much of that should we keep, and what should you do with it? But when you realize money flows to value, then something tremendous happens. And this is what I've learned. Money is not a limited resource. I think the problem that so many people have with money is that when they view it as a limited resource, meaning I only get so much, and that way, that, I have to really keep close tabs on it and all of those things. And I just realized, dude, that's not the case, man. Like, if you can learn how to create value, then you can make money. And that's what we're doing in real estate, right? We're looking at a property and we're figuring out, how do we create more value in this piece of property that, it's not like we're building new property. You and I both, we're buying stabilized stuff. People have been living in this stuff for decades, but there's untapped potential, untapped value that you and I go in and we create in order to create a return for our investors. The same thing is true, man, in any business. It's figuring out where the untapped value is, and there's money to be made in those things. So for me, when I think about making money, it really is, what problems are we solving? How much value are we creating? And golly, man, why should we not do more of that as faith-driven entrepreneurs and investors, business owners? So that's one. And if you let me say one more other thing, please. I think too, as an investor, what I love about multifamily, and this is the mission of multifamily for me, is that our dollars can do more than just make money. Like, our dollars can have multiple roles when investing. Like, it doesn't just have to add to the bottom line. Now, that's significant. That's important, right? That it adds to the bottom line, that it multiplies, that it grows. But golly, man, there's so many great things in the world of alternative investing where we can have social impact with our dollars, and we can have kingdom impact with our dollars, right? So when we buy a multifamily apartment complex, we're buying someone's home, right? Like, we're investing in someone's community. It's where people raise their families and make connections. And so, we have that impact. And, there's great organizations out there like Apartment Life that literally will place church missionary families in these communities in that spiritual component of having a person there to, be that sounding board and help continue to build that foundation of faith and families. I just try and go to the stock market, man, and have all that. Like, I just can't see it. Like, you know what I'm saying? So it just gives me juice, man. It's why I was like, wow, I can do all of that and be an entrepreneur and make money. That sounds pretty cool. I think that's a place I want to be in.
Yeah. And obviously your background, your faith, your morals, your compass, whatever you want to call it, the faith that you have as an entrepreneur yourself, you could share it with whoever you want to. You're not bound or restricted in any fashion, man, right?
I say this, dude. I talk about my faith in God more today than I did as a missionary. And I shared a lot back then too, but I'm on podcasts every week. And, my journey of pastor to this is so intriguing. Like, I was just on the Sharkpreneur with Seth Green and Kevin Harrington. Even for them, it's like, what? You're a pastor now? Really? Like, explain that. And just getting to talk about my story and why we did it. And like, hey, it's not like I left my faith or left my mission. It's just the vehicle has changed. And so, yeah, man, I get to talk about my bigger purpose, bigger why, and maybe even help some people realize, like, that's maybe kept them from God for so long, to really see that that's not necessarily the case. And so it's been really sweet, man. The biggest struggle, Abel, for me early on when I was still in full-time ministry, I kind of had sensed this transition for a long time, but feared that I was leaving my greatest impact. Right? Because I was always told, like, you have to be the missionary nonprofit person to really serve God. And I don't know if I was told that or if I just picked that up. So I feared, man, really doing anything different. And so just this year has been so cool to see, like, you're in Kingdom Capitalists. Like, golly, how amazing is that community? We've created a ministry inside of the real estate world. Like, I never thought that was possible.
With a lot of like really serious, multi heavy hitting millionaires.
Yeah. Like some dudes who are doing some incredible stuff, man. And so,
I was thinking, I want to join a group of millionaires, 1 million, 5 million, 10 million. And then I'm like, I'm getting advice and guidance from, guys that are like 400 and 300 and 500. Like, okay. Yeah. Let me turn an ear up and then grab a pen and a piece of paper. Great learning experience on both ends, right?
Yeah, 100%, man. So, anyways, it's been cool to see it. It's been really fun.
Thank you very much for sharing. And I think if I could steer the conversation to like, so you started a podcast this year. You started a mastermind this year. Those things were created and formed by you. And a lot, now you have a community, everybody kind of drives the vehicle forward too. But why did you do that? Why did you start a podcast? Why did you start your mastermind? What was the push?
Yeah, I'll tell you a story. So after I bought that second deal, 144 units, we now own $10 million in real estate. I thought I was the king, man. I was like, we did some awesome stuff. People are going to love hearing about this. Like, I want to help others get into these deals. So I drafted this Facebook post. I'm excited to send it. I'm like, we're getting some great feedback on this. I hit send. I waited for the responses to come in. And man, it did not meet. Let me say this. The feedback was totally different. I got a lot of questions. Like, I thought you were a pastor. Where'd you get all this money? Why are you doing this? Man, should we continue to support you?
Wow.
Like, a lot. And it was really disheartening. And I realized something. I was pissed. There's no doubt. Like, I was upset for about 2 days. Thankfully, I didn't do anything. I didn't say anything. Just call that God's spirit really speaking, being patient, my wife really helping me understand. And what I realized, man, is that I've been on this journey for 15, 18 months of really understanding that capital equals influence, that money flows to value, that you can really be master over money and not have money be master over you. And I expected everyone else to pick that up in a Facebook post, and just realized like how stupid, right, that I was to think that just through a Facebook post that people, what took me a year and a half, that people would pick up on right away. And so I realized that if I'm really going to be on this journey, I really need to do all that I can to bring others along with me and help people really understand the bigger picture and really build a community around what we're doing. And so that's the goal of our podcast show, man. It's called Kingdom Capitalist. The name's actually probably going to get changed by the time this podcast show is launched, and that's for several reasons, but it's called Kingdom Capitalist right now. And it's this idea of how do we as kingdom-minded folks really build, create, and use the system of capitalism. I don't care what you think, if it's good or evil. The reality is it's the one that we live in, and it's probably the best one we got, and we can do incredible things through it. And so helping people really realize that. And then, man, I wanted to have a community of people like me who love God and love business, because that was so rare. Like, where do I find it? And it's not in my church. Like, I don't have a community of folks in my church who are really thinking about building, growing, ambitious about business, but also love God. Like, it's so hard to find for folks. And so that was it, man. I want to do everything in my power to empower other people like me who just haven't had those resources.
Man, you've done an excellent job so far. And if you haven't heard his podcast or join or whatever, you need to go check that out. And then you've got a big following or a growing following on Facebook and LinkedIn and that type of thing. So connect with him. Do that now. Push pause or something and go do that. It's worth the time. Yeah. And then what were some byproducts of doing that? So you're definitely getting, accomplishing your mission. What were some of the byproducts, either expected or unexpected, on this journey?
Good or bad?
Yeah, either or, man. Good or bad, expected or unexpected.
I was surprised how many people pushed back early on. How many people didn't get what we were doing, which part of it, I think in any new endeavor, was a surprise. I've also been surprised on the other side, how many people needed this. Like, and I get way more of those than I get the pushback anymore. I actually don't get any more pushback because I think it was all the people in my inner circle who pushed back. And now, once you kind of lose those folks, then it's like, all right, you're in your new tribe. And I feel like I found my tribe. I'm so shocked at how many people needed this message of, wow, you can love God and be ambitious for business. You can be a capitalist and a sound follower of Christ. How many people really needed this message, needed this tribe? I really didn't know, Abel, like when we launched it. I'm like, I really don't know if there's people out there that think like this and are really on this, really trying to wrestle with this. And there is. So that's been a huge surprise. So just finding people like you, man, that have become really good friends and people with me in this journey. So that's been a great byproduct of that. I mean, to think that people would pay me to do the thing I love, which is build communities, is unbelievable to this point. Like, that you would find value in something that I created based on a gift that God's given me, which is creating communities. Like, that was, honestly, man, for the last 6 years, the communities that we're building were full of 18, 19, 20-year-old kids, who wouldn't pay didn't pay $1 to come to those things. If anything, I'm like pulling teeth to get people to come to these events, right? And these things we're doing. And here we are now. We've created a community that people really invest to be a part of. It's incredible. That's why I say, like, money flows to value, because we've created something of value that people want to be a part of. So I think that's been amazing. And I've grown in, to think about a brand and network. It's just like I have a niche, kind of the corner of a niche that was underserved. I'm excited to continue to serve it and build it, man, because there's a lot of opportunity here that I think has been overlooked for a long time.
That's awesome, man. Thank you. Hello. You're listening to the 5 Talents Podcast. I'm your host, Abel Pacheco. If you're enjoying this podcast, then I know you're serious about achieving financial freedom. Are you ready to create your own path through multifamily investing for yourself and your family? Then I know you're going to appreciate our Investor's Guide to Multifamily Investing. It's titled Tackling Commercial Real Estate the Easy Way. We use this guide to invest ourselves in $93 million worth of real estate. So we're going to show you the basic mechanics of multifamily syndications and how to evaluate your next passive investment opportunity. So the best part, if you subscribe to our podcast now, leave us a review and a rating. I'm going to give you a free copy of our ebook. So please take a moment to do that now. Once you've done that, go to 5tcre.com/ebook, 5tcre.com/ebook. Make sure to let us know you left a review, and we're going to send you a free copy. So thank you so much for subscribing to the 5 Talents Podcast. We really appreciate it. So you're here. You started syndicating deals, opportunities. You're looking at new properties. You're a growing team of multifamily syndicators, which is pretty awesome. What are the kind of next steps in the multifamily investing world for you?
Well, there's some bigger plays for sure. I think, as you know, man, the hardest thing right now is placing capital. I don't have really an issue raising capital. We have investors that are excited to work with us and be a part of this vision, be a part of an asset class like multifamily. The tough thing, man, is just figuring out ways to get deals done at the moment. With COVID and now cap rates continue to compress, and just trying to figure out how do we make this work. So that's what we're wrestling with now, and looking at some different things with affordable housing and in communities like that, and trying to play around with some of those things. So, we're just trying to, get more deals done. So if someone's listening and you can source deals in Phoenix, Tucson, Albuquerque, or Kansas City, we got investors ready to roll from that standpoint. And but here's the thing, man, I'm really passionate about this idea of triple bottom line, and thinking about how do we give investors an opportunity to make great money, right? Better than average, better than they're going to get in the stock market, while also having a social impact, meaning it's impacting communities, while also has this kingdom component as well. So there's some bigger plays down the road, man, where I think there's a fund opportunity there with the people that we know, the network that we're growing. The podcast has been awesome. It's given me opportunities to meet and get in front of some incredible people that I think, because of those things, there's a network I'm growing, man, that there's some cool opportunities maybe to branch outside of real estate a little bit in the future. That's really early on, so I don't want to talk about it too much, but you asked, and I'm saying that's what I'm dreaming of. I think there's a fund in the future is all I'm going to say for now.
Sounds good. Keep us posted. While we're on this point, where should people go to reach out to you if they're interested in investing in some of these?
Well, get the book, man. I'm writing this book, missiontomultifamily.com. This is my journey. This is my story. to really dive in, and you can read it in a couple hours. I wrote it so you really get it. So missionofmultifamily.com, and then LinkedIn, you'll get some emails from me there when you get that book. I'm giving it to you for free right now, just because I want to get it in people's hands. And so I don't know if we'll do that for forever. So while it's free, grab it. And then the other place to interact is LinkedIn, man. Ellis Hammond. I put out a ton of stuff there. So for sure, hit me up.
Yeah. Thank you. So let's talk about, your book, man. This is super exciting. The Mission of Multifamily. So I guess there's a couple of big clues. What's this book about?
Yeah. So the subtitle is A Missionary's Journey Towards Financial Freedom Through Apartment Investing. And it's what we're talking. I mean, it is my story, man. And it starts with my mindset, and talk about just the baggage that I had coming in. And I think if anything, like, I wrote in such a way for people to hear my story and be able to resonate with their own, in the sense of, man, what baggage am I carrying when it comes to money and investing? What's the hard work I need to do to change my mindset? Because I can assure you, I said this at the beginning of this podcast show, without that, like, none of this would have been possible, right? Without that change in mindset and noticing the things that kept me from getting to this point, like, that's huge. We just don't realize how valuable we are. And so, that's the huge piece of it. And then, talk about the story from duplex to 144 units. But the other thing I do, man, I think is really cool, that is really lacking, is just, there's an education component to it around, like, financial education, this idea of financial freedom and helping people think differently about investing, that I'm really excited to get out there to the world. Because, dude, the only thing I knew when my father passed away at 21 was go to a financial advisor, kind of hand over the little bit of money I had, and hope for a good return in 30 or 40 years. That's it. Yeah. And that's most people's plan. And to think that it's actually not that hard to do better if you educated yourself a little bit, right? And begin to think differently about building wealth, financial freedom. So the book is a lot about that as well, of just helping people think differently about making money, about investing in assets, about investing in assets that cash flow, that can multiply your money, that can protect you from high taxes. So those are some of the things too that I got to talk about in the book. I'm really excited to get out there, that I think will be really eye-opening for a lot of people. I mean,
it sounds like a great read for sure. Whenever I hear somebody talk about, going to a financial advisor, I always think back of my uncle's kind of advice, just kind of like the way you said, man, your dad passed away early, and, when you were younger, and, what you were left with was go see a financial advisor. And, my uncle goes, well, shoot, what am I going to do? And he was maybe in his 40s, 50s. And he goes, am I really going to go to like some, 30-year-old, to him, he was looking down at this 25, 30-year-old kid that doesn't have retirement plan. Like, he doesn't have retirement in his reach, and he's waking up every morning, setting the alarm, getting on the train, going down every single morning, hating life. And he's telling me what to do with my money when he's not financially free himself. He goes, that didn't make any sense to me. And he said something along those lines. So taking control of, or giving people the mindset to take control of their own, financial destiny is awesome. Kudos to you, man. Good job writing that up. I think it's going to help a lot of people.
Yeah, me too, man. I mean, if most of our investors are entrepreneurs, or at least entrepreneur-minded people, business owners, if I can free people, man, to not have to worry about money, so that they can just create and bring and add value to the world, that would be a job well done, man. And that really is, I think, when we think about our investment firm side of things, on the investor side of things, I don't want to help people just quit their job. I want to help people do their job better. And part of doing your job better is not having to work for money anymore. And so, so yeah, man, I appreciate that.
Absolutely. So, I'd love to know, a little bit about your first deal too, man. And, give a couple of nuggets for, if I'm a passive investor, really trying to figure out, who do I invest with? What kind of deals do I invest in? And then maybe we'll start there. And I'd love to, give a couple of nuggets for the new general partners as well. But
yeah, so on an LP side, here's a couple of things I look for. And this is what I look for too, because I was vetting, I had to vet a partner. Like, I needed experience. So I'm looking for a partner to partner with where we could co-GP and we could bring together our network, his track record. So experience was huge. How connected are they in the area, in the market that you're investing in, right? Not just the asset, but also the market, right? Like what things have they already overcome in business? Because here's the thing, man, I don't think people realize, especially the bigger you go in multifamily syndication. Yes, you're investing in real estate, but dude, you're buying a business. So you probably should be investing with people who know how to run businesses. Yeah. Because that's what you're buying. You're buying a business that has a label of real estate. It's really what this thing is, man. So I don't think people realize that, right? Like it's not like single family is different, but when you get 100 plus unit complexes, you're buying a business. So, track record in business is so key. And people who are business savvy and know how to create and drive cash flow and revenue, have overcome things. So that was really important. So I think knowing, understanding, looking for that, just business savviness, experience, and maybe if they don't have a ton of that, who's on their board, who are they around, right? Like those things are really important. I think right now, I think things are different in a kind of a COVID environment. The bank won't let you buy deals that you can't cover the debt, but I think that's significantly important. Like how much margin are on these deals. I think your tenant base is super important right now in this, and just where are people trying to drive value? I mean, I think in, middle of 2015, 16, 17, you could, customer demand was wanting shared spaces and all these amenities, and you could really drive revenue based on those things. I think today you got to be really careful of that because people don't want to be around other people. They don't want shared spaces, right? Like, so where people are looking to drive value and revenue, I think for anyone who's assuming that they know what that is probably wrong. Because I just don't understand how you can say this is going, like not knowing what customer or consumer demand is going to be like in 12 months. So those are the things I would really be looking out for if looking at a deal right now, or just invest with you and me because we'll probably put you in a good spot so to save you the time. So those would be. What's your other question? That would be some feedback.
No, this ties in. It was really passive investor and general partner. Just kind of those nuggets, and you kind of gave one for the general partners, which is so important. You gotta know your background of your partners, like who you're doing deals with. So Ellis touched on, a few different points about, the market, where it's headed. You're trying to forecast it. It's hard to hit, post COVID, you're trying to make some assumptions, but you may be pretty far off. So stay conservative as possible. And then your partnerships is you're buying a business, right? I interviewed, Will Crozier a couple of weeks ago, and he's in like 5,000, I don't know, something crazy, like $500 million worth of real estate and 5,000 plus doors. And he was talking about his first deals, and they were like, he was new and experienced, but he lived on the property and did this massive, value add. If you were basing him as a new partner off of that track record, he had little to none. But if you look back on his previous experience, he had crushed it in the business world,
right?
Previous. And so if you're looking for track record, go beyond, just what they've accomplished. Like, Ellis has had a pretty successful track record running communities and establishing communities and, of all different types. And what's the difference from apartment complexes? What makes them complicated is people. And if you can work with people well, then you're going to have success. Right. So
yeah,
that's awesome.
And, I mean, I have a team too. I don't do everything. It'd be crazy to think I could do all this on my own. So yeah, the team's important. So anyways, I think like you and I, we really like this world of multifamily. We see it as a great thing. I think if you're a GP or you're early in GP, early and you're trying to do this, I would just be wary. I mean, of like mentorship programs at this moment, like that. I believe in mentorship programs. I think you should probably do one if you want to get. It's like you wouldn't. Just like any education, you really know what you're doing. But things are changing, man. And so things that worked 3 years ago, 4 years ago, really, that's not how you get deals done at the moment. And so I think it's being around people who are actively doing deals, adapting, changing. That's super important right now. And so maybe, more importantly, finding a mentor who's actually in the business and doing stuff and getting deals done, or invest as an LP early on and kind of figure that out that way. So for those who are just trying to get going, being around people who are actually doing deals and getting stuff done and are adapting and changing their business models, are really valuable right now.
Good stuff, man. Good stuff. Thank you. So we have a few more minutes, before I take up all your time. What topics have we not talked about that you really wanted to hit on? Is there any, nuggets, any wisdom, any, insights, anything in general that you really want to spend some time, but I haven't asked about?
And we've covered the gamut of things in a lot of ways. I definitely think this idea of financial freedom. I don't know how much you've talked about this on your show already, but this is a new show. It probably hasn't been. It probably hasn't been hammered enough yet.
I'm probably going to ask every single person.
I remember sitting in this. His financial advisor came and brought me to his luncheon or whatever, and I remember him talking about this nest egg, and and he actually was thinking about it differently than most financial advisors. He said most people spend their life worrying about how to get up the mountain, right? And the goal in their mind was I got to get up this mountain, meaning a big enough nest egg, which is the top of the mountain. But what most people don't think about is how do we get down the mountain, meaning how do we live after in post-retirement? And my thought was what if we just got rid of the mountain? You know what I mean? What if we just, why is this mindset I have to labor and toil and struggle to get to the top of this mountain, where my dad, for example, really never got the opportunity to come back down it. He passed away at 55 years old. And so I think financial freedom, man, does not have to wait 30 or 40 years from now when we invest in assets that can pay us today and multiply our money over the next decade. That sounds like a better way of investing and really building businesses that do the same thing, that create passive cash flow and can grow our money. I just think if we don't have to deal with the mountain, why? And so, I won't bash on financial advisors anymore because I have family who are those.
I hit him once. Now it's your turn.
But I just think again, I say this all the time. Here's the thing. We need both. But here's what financial advisors can't do. They can't deal in the private market. So liquidity is in the public market. Wealth is built in the private markets. And so most financial advisors aren't dealing in private markets because they can't. They're not allowed. They don't get paid that way. It's deemed as too risky because it's not traded. So you can't build wealth if you're only in the public markets. You have to come to the private markets in order to significantly build wealth. And I would say there's opportunities there then to invest in things like real estate that can do more than just grow your nest egg. It can create cash flow, right? It can save you from taxes and fees. Think about, when have you ever gone to your broker and said, your stockbroker, and said, hey, I want you to pay me first. And then based off the performance of this portfolio, then you get paid. It's not really how that world works. In our world, that's how it works. We're aligned with our investors. And doesn't that make sense that you would be aligned with the person who's managing and dealing with your money? I don't know. But when I look at our business, I'm if you do well, we do well. And if you don't do well, why should we get paid? And anyways, I just think there's a different way to think about investing that really you can't find in the public market, has to happen in the private market, that I think can accomplish financial freedom for you and your family at a much more accelerated pace. But you gotta be intentional about learning this stuff. If you're listening to the show, you're probably already doing that. Yeah. So this is our audience, but that's probably one thing we haven't chatted about.
No, that's a good, several points here, because number one, building up that nest egg, like you said, labor, toil all your life to do that. And hopefully it leads you down enough runway to kind of end, with enough in the bank. But, life is short, and, sometimes we never see that end of toil. My parents are in their 60s, and they're still working, and I'm like, man, the labor and the toil continues. And, if I don't know what percentage of people actually get there, like to say, oh yeah, they made it, they built up enough nest egg. I bet you, I don't know what the percentage is, but I bet you it's very low. Out of every single person, in the United States, is probably, next to nothing that actually make it. And there's a better way with creating some investments that provide cash flow today, build net worth, and reduce taxes. And then the last kind of points that you mentioned about the financial advisor, it's also important and factual to mention whatever group they're working for, or company or organization that this advisor is working for. Generally, they're pushing, they're selling, they're advising on their own products. And it's like, if I work at the Chinese restaurant, I'm definitely not going to talk about burgers and fries down the street. And so it's just kind of what it is, the private markets.
100%. Yeah, just the last thing on the nest egg thing. I was just in a car ride the other day with a guy, and we didn't have time to get into it, so I didn't double click on this. But he said something. I'm like, that's the mindset that hurts people. He's getting ready to retire, wants to retire, but the thing that keeps him working is like, you never know if you have enough with the nest egg mentality, because how do you know? Like, what if I run out? Mm-hmm. And so it's a paralyzing mentality when you have to try and say, well, do I have enough stored up? Where, again, like, if I can help people think about doing that differently, that would be pretty cool. So,
all right. Well, good deal, my friend. I don't normally prey on our other podcast interviews, but man, if you can you close us out, Pastor? Lead us in a good one. I love that.
Yeah, I love that. God, we are so grateful for this time together. Thank you for Abel and just his story and the way he's helped so many folks over the last couple of years think differently about money and finances and faith, and pray that you will continue to use him in mighty ways in this podcast show. Pray for those who are listening, God, that you might reveal to them your true character, one of love, one of kindness, one of fatherliness that really wants to guide, protect, and help. And that even in this journey towards financial freedom, that you want to be involved in that as well. We'll pray all this in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, brother. Thank you very much, man. It's been a pleasure. Really sincerely appreciative. And my name's Abel Pacheco. I'm the host for 5 Talents Podcast. Our website is 5tcre.com. Go there, like us, or whatever. Leave some positive reviews if you like something that you've heard, either from Ellis. Give him some feedback on his website. Leave us a 5-star rating on the podcast. Do all the things, and we appreciate your support. So again, Abel Pacheco. Ellis, thanks a lot, man.
Thanks, brother. Mission Multifamily, guys. Go check it out.
Absolutely. Talk soon.
Cheers.
Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to this episode of the 5 Talents Podcast with your host, myself, Abel Pacheco. Each week, we're going to bring you interviews from industry experts and commercial real estate investors who followed their dreams and achieved massive success. Before you leave, let me ask you a few questions. Did you enjoy this episode? Did you learn something valuable? Was your mind stretched to what's possible and what you can achieve? Do you want other experts just like the one you heard today? If you answered yes to any or all of those questions, then please take a moment to subscribe to the 5 Talents Podcast, give us a 5-star rating, and most importantly, leave us a written review. Tell us what you liked, tell us your favorite guest, give us any feedback. I'm excited to learn and improve so you can get a more valuable show. So thank you again for subscribing to the 5 Talents Podcast.